It is Monday, October 12th, 2020, 5:01 p.m. We're a minute late because Kate Klonick was telling me an important story about reporting and about stuff that we're not going to share with you.
Molly's
we lost track of time. And that happens when you don't have producers, when you don't have advertisers. You lose track of time and you miss the fact that your guests have showed up in the case of Molly Jong-Fast or not showed up in the case of Rick Wilson. He'll be here. He's going to be here. I'm not the slightest bit anxious about it. But we ended up being a minute late, and I'm not apologizing for it even a little bit.
I don't know why you ever apologize for it, but that's okay.
I don't really. I just kind of pretend to sort of care if we're a minute late. Now, you will all remember that the last time Molly Jong-Fast was on the show, Kate got banned from Twitter as a result of Molly's
it really had nothing to do with Molly did nothing wrong.
Nobody did anything wrong. But we're going to suggest that Molly, if your husband or children or anybody else comes into the frame, you refrain from threatening them with death.
Yes.
And Kate, if Molly threatens anybody with death, even jokingly, as it clearly was, don't retweet it, okay? We're not allowed to have fun anymore, and Molly's not allowed to, jokingly threaten her loved ones, and Kate's not allowed to tweet about it, but Rick is allowed to drop as many F-bombs on In Lieu of Fun as he wants, because today on In Lieu of Fun, it is our 200th episode, and it is our first crossover episode. Molly Jong-Fast and Rick Wilson, who isn't here yet, will both be here. It will be the new abnormal on In Lieu of Fun. Molly, welcome back.
Thank you for having me. I'm glad I didn't do anything to alienate everyone and was invited back. I'm very...
You were so invited back.
Yeah.
Can we talk about that testimony today?
I didn't watch it, but go ahead.
Do you want to do the thing where but neither of us have watched it, and then we listen with shock and horror as you spell out what
tell
happened.
us about it.
I'm curious to know what people think. I thought Ted Cruz is terrible. I don't know if you know that.
Breaking news.
I really actually did see. Yeah, he's an intellect. I don't love this term, but if there was someone to use it on, him and Josh Hawley are two intellectually dishonest people. They know better than to say the things that they're going to say, and they know the ramifications of them.
He said, it was just so infuriating. The thing with Ted Cruz is every time I listen to him, I'm so enraged, but I couldn't totally tell you what he said, if that makes any sense. The one that stuck with me the most actually was Ben Sass, who just was like, let's talk about civics. We don't spend enough time talking about civics. And
I agree with that.
But then he sort of gave this very pedantic lecture about what civics means and how the court shouldn't be politicized. Yeah, Ben Sass is also very intellectually dishonest. I did think Klobuchar was incredible. She did.
So what did Klobuchar do?
She just gave a really good speech about how her husband had COVID and how he had been really, really sick, and how and you know what she said, which I thought it's hard not to relate to this. She said her husband they were cleaning every surface and Trump knew it was airborne and he never told us. And that I thought was really, it was like she connected what we all know to like her actual concrete life. And it just really sort of hit.
I think it would be kind of interesting to have as a theme for today and the crossover of your show and our show to kind of, they started around the same time, like a month apart or a couple weeks apart. And as I told you, I spent this afternoon listening at 2.5 times speed because I wanted to get through as many as
must have been
possible.
so fast.
You sounded like very, very excited.
Well, we're already very fast.
Yeah. It's really funny to listen to Rick Wilson like make his jokes at like 3 times speed. Anyways, I was gonna say that the show, like I said to you before, is like a time capsule. It's just incredible to like hear Rick say like, oh, like there are 42,000 Americans who have died. And I was like, where is he getting that number? And then I'm like, oh yeah, wait, this is April. Like he's talking about this in April. And to hear you at the time that he asked you, he was like, how many dogs do we have between us, Molly? And he went back and forth. Is it 6 or 7? And I was like, doesn't she have 3 dogs now? Like, I was like, Molly has more dogs. This is just a fact of life. So anyways, it was just kind
I
of
only
a very
know 2
funny
of
thing.
your dogs.
Oh no, I got a COVID puppy.
Yeah, she got a
really?
COVID puppy.
Yeah. Wait, let me, am I allowed to leave am I allowed to break?
Yeah. Bring the COVID
Okay.
puppy.
I'll be right back.
It was really fun, to be honest, to listen to it because they're super, super witty and interesting, and they make even old news really fun.
Yeah, so I haven't listened to any of the back episodes. I listened to them as they come out. So I had either missed the episode about the COVID.
Leonidas, the COVID puppy, and
Oh my gosh.
Rescue.
Oh my gosh.
Bald is beautiful. Doggy puppy.
So
rescue.
sweet.
And he's eating some.
I was just going to say, did he just eat something delicious?
He's been eating Smart Pups. It's a Chinese crested. It's a naked one. So I have 2 of them that have lots of hair that are like furry ones. And then I got from a breeder when my kids were little. And now my kids are old. And so I'm not worried about them getting bitten. Even though he doesn't bite, he's like an angel. And so I got this little guy. And he's like.
How old is he?
He's 6 months.
I love him.
He's adorable.
I love him. I'm a sucker for the ears.
He is the greatest dog ever, and I take him for long, long walks. And I took him to the doggy park.
He looks
yesterday.
So happy to have you.
Oh,
He
we're
looks
very
so
lucky.
great.
Yeah.
Well, you live right next to the park, so you
that must be lovely.
like go into the park and just like.
Without getting too detailed, yes. And so.
That covers a lot of ground.
Yeah,
Molly.
I know. That's true.
Like
I took him to the doggy park, to this like doggy playground, and he just was so scared. He was like, "Oh my God, this is totally terrifying," but he is so great.
All right, so key question about the new abnormal.
Yes.
Many podcasts about the life under Trump, and the why'd you guys connect for this?
Well,
What's the other than the sort of novelty of you and Rick getting together for this podcast? There's something different about it, which is the like vaguely drunk, punch drunk quality of it, which is what I love about it. But how did you guys decide to do a twice a week, 3 times a week? You're doing a lot of them now.
Yeah.
And with sound effects and with guests, and also, why haven't you invited me on it yet? Because I'm getting a complex about that.
We will definitely have you on, and that is done. You will be invited tomorrow because I
was joking, actually.
But yes, so Rick and I have been friends for a long time, and I had been wanting to do a podcast, and he had been wanting to do a podcast, but when COVID hit, we were all like stuck in our houses and had no place to go. So I was like, let's just do it now. And we both write for the Daily Beast and we both write for Noah and we're really good friends. So I said, let's just ask Noah if we can just do it. And we made about 4 or 5 episodes. What was cool was Noah gave us this amazing producer, Jesse, who is a friend of his and who like does everything and
who's like now a voice on the show, which is kind of cool.
Yeah.
I haven't gotten there yet. Spoilers.
And he's amazing too. He's also like my best friend. Like we talk on the phone, we hang out, we had dinner with our spouses. I mean, he's just a mensch. So he was really, really good, and he got really good at like cutting it so we sound pretty smart and making us just, and then we sort of got the hang of it. I've gotten much, much better at it too. I mean, you guys do it. There's a sharp learning curve. Right?
Yeah.
I don't know.
No, go ahead, Kate.
Do you think that, I never watch any of the old episodes. I watched the first couple so I could clip them up to turn them into a little like spoof reel for Ben after like 1 month. And then I was like, that's enough of that. I don't like watching myself on the screen, but I would say that like, it is one of the best. I used to really, 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 really have like a fear of public speaking. And now I feel like, not just since this, but like this has really cemented it. Like I can tell what needs to happen before and when I don't do it, or like the prep I don't do, I can tell. And like maybe other people can't, but like I feel like there's like times, and I don't know, like it's I don't know. Like I just feel like every day there's just been something different and something new, either subject matter wise that I learn or about like the producing the show itself. It would be nice to have a producer. And
it's like when you get edited by a really good editor. Like he's amazing. And
the thing about having a producer though, it makes a little bit less difference if you're live, like now. Because like, if do that, no one can cut it.
Yeah.
And whereas if you went on the Lawfare podcast, if I sound like a freaking idiot, Jen Patja Howell makes me sound brilliant. Right. And I do these introductions that are like, Jen, if you're listening, this is a real shout out to you, that are like, I'm Benjamin Wittes and this is the Lawfare podcast. So Molly Jong-Fast is she's a writer for the Daily Beast. And then it comes out like, Molly Jong-Fast is a writer for the Daily Beast. She's a blah, 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 blah. And it sounds like really, and it's of course like it's not me at all. It's completely edited. But this is actually, this is the first, I've done live TV, of course, but only in 5 to 10 minute increments before. This is actually sort of unfiltered, Clonic and unfiltered Wittes, and that's actually a very different skill from podcasting.
Oh, it's a different type of authenticity. It's like, I don't know, if you were like, when I first started teaching, people were like, well, you just haven't you ever done theater? You just pretend for 2 hours like you're another person. You pretend like you're a professor. And I was like, fuck no, like I'm not doing that. Lines and stuff, I'm not gonna do that. So like I just it's kind of like one size fits all. I don't know.
Still no sign of Rick Wilson. What's going on with that?
Wait, hold on. I called him, so he should be here in a second. And look, we have Leonidas.
We do have Leonidas.
Wait, Molly, can we talk a bit about how your vaccine trial is going? I loved that op-ed. I thought it was beautiful and poignant, and I thought it was like, I think that you are like, I think that it is like one of the most legitimately like very, very brave and kind of like wonderful things that you can do coming out of COVID, or like with COVID still like there. So like, well, how is that? How did you find the study? And like tell everyone the story a little bit.
So I signed up for I signed up for a bunch of different ones, and I didn't make it into, he does have an F-bomb sweater, the dog. He's a great dog. I'm so focused. I'm laser focused. So I signed up for the trial. I ended up getting into the one at Yale, which is not very convenient, but I was happy to get into it. And I just did it. It wasn't so hard. And in fact, now they have this new, they've expanded the Pfizer trial from 30,000 to 47,000. So there really is an opportunity for a lot of people to get in. And I actually think that I feel really good about it. I didn't have any side effects. Everyone in my study didn't have side effects. So like the study doctor, who's this amazing doctor, who's like, who specializes in HIV and works in Africa.
How big is each trial size?
Well, so the
or each study
Pfizer was 30,000 and now it's 47,000. But my study site, which is Yale, it was 500 and now is 700 or something. It's very small. But my doctor, Dr. O, is like this amazing, he's the study doctor. And he said, everyone thinks in this study that they got the placebo, which is really good because it means that people aren't getting side effects. Now,
that could be what they tell you to make you.
Or it could mean that everybody's getting COVID.
Well, no, the way it works is the study, like there are other studies going. There's a Moderna study, and then there's also an AstraZeneca study. And Moderna, I've heard more anecdotal side effect stories, whereas on my trial on the Pfizer, I didn't have it. My friend Howard Foreman, who's a doctor at Yale, who's also in the trial, didn't have any. My husband's aunt and uncle, who are also at the NYU trial, didn't have any. I mean, what's interesting is you really can. There's really a lot of space in this trial. This is like one of the largest vaccine trials ever, maybe ever, and it's like a fascinating thing to be a part of. But it's also, as much as it's interesting because it's a terrible time for science because we have this president who doesn't believe in science and we have this anti-science thing that's taking over, but it's also an incredible time for science.
Yeah, it's just like AIDS that way, right?
Right.
So you have this perception in the late 80s, early 90s, which had a lot of merit, that there wasn't enough research going on in AIDS, there wasn't enough urgency, there wasn't enough, and yet we made, the scientific community made progress on AIDS faster than it had ever made progress on anything. And, there's this disparity between the legitimate perception of the affected community of what's being done for them and the sort of objective speed with which progress happened. And here you have this just incredible progress that's really despite the ambient environment that we're in, certainly not because of it. It's not that the president is like lighting a fire under a whole bunch of researchers' asses, but it is an incredible accomplishment that people are, we are, however close we are, we're in late stage phase 3 trials for
3 different vaccines,
for multiple different vaccines.
Yeah.
It's an incredible accomplishment.
So I have an interesting kind of just counterpoint to this, and it reminds me of like some of the things that your mom said, Ben, which also reminds me that we should have your mom back on to talk about anything that's gone on with clinical trials.
Molly, my mom designs clinical trials for a living.
No, I know about your mom because we've talked about her the
She's
last
amazing.
Time. Yeah, she's awesome.
But I was thinking so it's a counterpoint to this, which is okay, it's great that COVID has pushed forward all of this, this push towards just solving this one thing, and we're going to take over all these labs and all of these clinical facilities that were doing other types of research for measles or or cancer or whatever else, and we're going to dedicate them to COVID. Okay, I'm not trying to be a jerk here, but cancer kills so many people every year. If we did something like this, again, if we had this type of psychological acuity that is created in the moment of a pandemic and applied it once this is all over to something like solving breast cancer or ALS or Parkinson's, do you think that there's a way that maybe we're going about this diffuseness of resources in how we do our various types of disease research. Maybe no one has an answer to this, but disease research versus like kind of just putting all of our eggs into a single basket and everyone hammers away at it. It seems just kind of like stunning to a certain extent how quickly this has gotten solved, or will be getting solved.
Well,
hopefully.
it's not
solved yet. Yeah.
I mean,
what do you think, Molly?
I mean, I think we're not there yet, is what I would say. We don't really, like, maybe it will be solved by then. I mean, I hope yes. I think cancer, I mean, it's a hard question. I think the thinking was that they were doing that for cancer, right?
Look, cancer is not a single disease. It's
that's the other thing that I was going to say.
Many different diseases.
Yeah. Just like vaccines are not a single disease.
Communicable diseases are a different problem from look, and I'm not a clinical trials person or a biomedical research person, but communicable diseases that present suddenly, we know we have a lot of diseases that we've developed vaccines for. We kind of know what we're doing, and you're plowing over the same road looking for approaches to specific organisms. Diseases where you don't really understand the cause, they have a genetic component, they have a environmental component, they have an atmospheric component. These are they're different animals, and some of them are really, really sticky in terms of our ability to address them. So, Molly, how are you feeling about this election that we have going on?
Wait, is there an election coming up?
My grandma asked me today
not
question.
Coming up. It's happening now as we speak.
22 days. I am just, I'm just hoping it works out. It feels like, I don't know, that those fake the ballot harvesting in California is really scary.
How do you mean?
With the fake, they're having these fake ballot drop boxes holding, that are being dropped around in California. I mean, I've seen a few of that. I was reading about it in the week, and that's really scary. I mean, I feel like there's going to be a fair amount of scary cheating, which hopefully will not affect.
But who would be trying to steal California? Are there certain seats that are up
Republican,
that are really
GOP?
Well, I mean, I know that, but are there seats that are close that it would matter if you stole a couple of? Yeah.
Right? I mean, Devin Nunez. There are a few Republicans left in California.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, my favorite question to ask interviewees is what broke Devin Nunez's brain? Because I always wonder.
What do you think broke Devin Nunez's brain?
I think that what happened was he was a little paranoid, a little nutty, and then they put him on that the security, whatever it's called, the whatever panel, you know what I'm talking about, right? Whatever committee. They put him on some
intelligence committee,
and it just broke his brain. I mean, I've heard stories about, I'm obsessed with Louis Gohmert, and I'm always.
Have you ever spoken to Louis Gohmert?
No, but I did speak to Hank for Texas, who we're having back on the podcast.
So I had a conversation with Louis Gohmert in a congressional hearing once. And it was so bizarre that I posted a transcript of it to Lawfare.
Oh, I'd love to see it.
If you just, I'll find a copy of it. The name Louis Gohmert doesn't appear on Lawfare all that often. But
for good reason.
He asked me, in effect, and I am not making this up, as Dave Barry would say, what would happen if the United States government decided to conduct a domestic drone strike against somebody because he had become embarrassing after leading Muslim prayers at the White House. And I swear I'm not making that up. And if anybody doubts me, they can look at the transcript, which I just posted. A number of us it was me and Bobby Chesney and Steve Vladeck and John Bellinger were all testifying. And we were all just completely flummoxed. Like, because, there are questions you prepare for. And then there's that one, which, you just don't prepare for. So.
That's bizarre.
Yeah, Louis Gohmert's a weird guy.
Yeah, he's a real weird guy.
I know we don't make fun of people for their appearances, but I'm looking up images, Devin Nunez, and he looks like he's just,
he's broken his brain in an amazing way.
Yeah, he's got a weird smile. No one else I know a lot of them do, but it's just kind of very Leave It to Beaver meets I don't know, it's just
So Molly, what are you going to do for election night? We may not know the result. You can't get together with anybody. Normally, I assume, because you're people don't know this about Molly, but Molly is the ultimate, New York salon person. You have this incredible host thing going, and she brings together just an incredible, amazing diversity of people in that apartment, which we don't discuss the location, of course. So what do you do if you can't host an event and you can't, is it a virtual Twitter thing? What do you do for election night, Molly Jong-Fast?
Well, we're going to do, Rick and I will definitely do an hour of live something. I'll probably do some.
Do you want to do it on In Lieu of Fun?
We should combine.
We can host you.
Or we should do a combined 2-hour election party.
Yeah, I'll be
or something.
I'm around, man. I mean, I'll do that, and then where am I going?
That would be fun. That would be really fun. Think of all the cool. We could invite Tim Miller and Sarah Longwell, and they could just drop in randomly.
Christopher Argyris suggests we call it In Lieu of Results, which is kind of awesome, actually.
Tim Miller is one of the funniest guests we've ever had.
Yeah, he's great.
Hilarious. And you don't even get the benefit of his wallpaper.
And he will be on the show on Wednesday. I think we got to call it In Lieu of Results.
It's
done. I think it's done.
He is. By the way, Rick Wilson should be coming on. He just texted me for the link.
Yeah, I keep looking for him. He's vying to be only the third person who's ever stood us up on.
Who were the other two?
Noah
Swisher. Feldman and Kara Swisher.
Oh well, Noah Feldman. Great. And Kara Swisher actually is a fucking genius. She's amazing. You're lost. I'm sorry.
So, she came to a different one. She wasn't very apologetic about it. I want to put it.
We had her on the pod, and I was like, oh my God. A lot of guests we have, not a lot, but some of the celebrities, I think, oh, well, you're not that smart, but that's okay. You're famous, so, but she is incredible. She's one of the few guys where I was like, wow, this person is really a lot smarter than I am, which always, she knows a lot of stuff. But Tim Miller is what he saw in Jeb. If you're a Republican, Jeb looks pretty good. I think that's fair. Is that fair? I mean, it looks good to me, but if you're a Republican,
I think when the history of this period is written, other than the children who got separated from their families, who are the sort of ultimate victims of this period.
And all the people who died of COVID.
Agreed. half of whom, or 2/3 of whom, are the victims of the.
Right.
But the people who gave up everything are the never Trump Republicans. You know, they're the Tim Millers. They're the, and, you know, they're the people who had a whole ambience, a whole world that they walked away from. And I am...
To be fair, they kind of did it together.
Yeah,
in a concerted effort and created a new tribe. You know.
Yeah, I enjoy my Never Trump Republicans, but they're having a pretty good run. I don't cry for them. Argentina is my takeaway.
You know, some of them more than others.
Right. I mean, it's true, but like, you know, my feeling is like these guys have found their tribe. I think the question is what's their tribe going to be after this is over is the question.
So somebody just showed up in the audience, user E824A5E5, who is just described as Rick.
Yeah, that's probably right.
But I cannot rapture him in because he's only sort of there. So I think that is Rick Wilson. But it says he's not logged in right now. So if you are that person, Rick Wilson, get your ass in. What the fuck? All right.
What the fuck?
He's trying.
Don't be the what the fuck.
He's trying to log in.
He's working on it.
He's working on it. You need to get wrapped.
All right.
To be fair, Ben, we pulled this entire show together 3 hours before it was supposed to start.
Yeah, I'm just teasing Rick Wilson.
And yet.
You know, so here's my other question. My favorite part of your show is the fuck that guy segment. And I love it because it's so raw and it's so, you know, unfiltered by like all the gentility that we had. Rick, granted, doesn't have a whole lot of gentility, but you do. And there's this moment in the show, at the end of the show, where you basically just choose one person who you're like, Jesus fucking Christ, how did that person do that? And so tell us about the fuck that guy segment and how it came to be.
Well, so we had a couple of originally we had a couple of segments, and they were like, people who are inspiring us, people who are doing their best. And all of those fell by the wayside, right? Because, you know, what do you do?
Because,
right, exactly.
You know.
So, and people who are doing their best. And so we ended up with just like the people who are the dregs. And it's hard because sometimes, like with this judiciary hearing today, it was like, is it going to be Lindsey Graham? Is it going to be Ted Cruz? Is it going to be, you know, there's just an embarrassment of shitty people, Riches, that you can't even, it's just impossible to quantitate. So we do end up sometimes, and like, there's certain people who just are so shitty that they keep getting, you know, Lindsey Graham, I think has been.
And their shittiness keeps renewing.
Well, Lindsey Graham going on Sean Hannity and being like, you are donating money to Jamie Harrison because you hate me. Indictment against donors. Like, yeah, they do. They are. That is how it's
works. Actually, you're that bad.
But also, like, that's why you donate money. Like, I mean, I love it when smart right-wing pundits are like, you idiot libs giving money to, you know, the woman running against Mitch McConnell. Don't you know she'll never win? They are not giving because they think she's going to win. They're giving because they hate Mitch McConnell. And like, that is as pure a reason to give money as anything. And so I do feel like there's a kind of, I don't know, it just was sort of interesting. And like, we've had a lot of Democratic Senate candidates on lately who have been really great. Like, I mean, Reverend Warnock from Georgia, we had him. He was, I thought, amazing. We had Mike Espy from Mississippi, and he told me about growing up in the Jim Crow South.
Yeah, that was a pretty amazing conversation, actually.
Right? I mean, I thought he was incredible. We had Dr. Al Gross on, and, you know, that was an interesting one, too, because people said, oh, ask him about killing the bear. He's killed the bear. And he was so horrified. to talk about killing a bear, because it turns out killing a bear, I don't know anything about nature, so it's
They're
really
kind of thick.
Well,
it's really
also
hard.
Like if you grow up in Alaska, you love bears, and it's like killing Bambi. It's just so he was like, I hate telling the story. It broke my heart. And I guess if you kill a bear in Alaska, you have to fill out all this paperwork because you're not supposed to. But the bear,
especially depending on the type of bear.
Right, and the bear was about to kill someone he was with. So I have just talked to a lot of these incredible Senate candidates, and right now Democrats have the chance to put 2 African American men in the Senate, which is like it's a humongous shift. It's amazing.
So this is Mike Espy and Jamie Harrison.
Yeah. Well, and also Reverend Warnock in January.
Right, so it's really
amazing.
3.
Yeah.
So how do you assess their chances?
So, and I wish Rick were here because he's got his finger on.
I am trying to bring Rick in. Rick is now in the audience.
Oh, he's on. He says he's on.
Yeah, well, he's on, except that we can't see him. So Rick, I'm going to remove you and re-invite you and try this again. Keep talking.
Okay. Yeah. So, I think Mississippi is a complicated place with not a lot of state polling. So there has been one poll I've seen from Mississippi, which has Espy a point ahead of Cindy Hyde-Smith. Cindy Hyde-Smith dresses in I'm sure everyone's seen the picture of her dressed in Confederate garb. She's just sucks. I mean, she's like one of those weird Southern woman candidates they've sort of trotted out, who's like, like the governor of Alabama is another one of these weird women candidates women Southerners who doesn't talk and is very odd. I would say if that polling is right and Espy just raised a lot of money, it's certainly possible. Jamie Harrison has a huge amount of money and his polling looks pretty good. But again, Georgia, there's a lot of fuckery. And not Georgia, South Carolina, there's a lot of fuckery that happens there. There he is.
Yep.
Rick Wilson.
Hello. Sorry that took me so long, guys.
Good to see you, man.
To have you.
Likewise, trying to save the Republic and do my things, and here we are.
What are the pumpkins, Rick?
We don't criticize anybody
Molly,
for
they're
being late
adored.
20 days before an election.
They're both tasty and useful for holiday decorating.
Tell me more.
So, Rick.
Yes.
You're among the 4 of us. You're the election guy. How's it shaken out? Should we feel good? Should we feel nervous? Should we feel like it's only a question of how big the wind's going to be?
Passing out the grape Kool-Aid.
Should we feel like deja vu all over again? We should not feel however we feel because we felt that way 4 years ago. How the fuck should we feel?
You should run every day like tomorrow's election day and you're 30 points behind.
Yeah, but that's not what I asked.
I know. I'm just telling you that's what you should do. Look, here's the thing. The Electoral College is a fickle machine. It is what it is, and we can't get away from it at this point in our history. But right now, Donald Trump is collapsing in a lot of key states, particularly in the Rust Belt. He has collapsed in Wisconsin. He's collapsed in Michigan. He's collapsing in Ohio. He's off the air. He's dark in Ohio. Pennsylvania is breaking very well toward Biden, especially in the Philadelphia suburbs. But North Carolina is holding steady for Trump. It's a state that has a sort of tailor-made population of Trump-type voters. Tends to be everywhere outside of the Charlotte metro. They tend to be less likely to be college educated, which is the strongest indicator. Like non-college white dudes are Trump's strongest indicator. There are a lot of them there. Arizona's a tie ball game. Iowa's a tie ball game. Maine 2, tie ball game. Nebraska 2, tie ball game. And unfortunately, Florida right now Biden is 2 points ahead, which means he's 6 points back.
What do you mean by that?
Explain the fuckery of Florida to us.
Guys like me spent 25 years building a great campaign machine in Florida. I don't mean a machine that cheats. I mean a machine that wins They're like the New England Patriots of state campaigns. They're very, 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 very good at what they do. They will drive out voters.
Deflated footballs?
What's that?
Sorry.
There may be a deflated football. There may be a deflated football or two around that process, but this is a state where the Democrats need to be on election day. If you're going to see a clean Biden win in Florida, his polling on election day needs to be 10 to 12 points up.
And what is it now? 2?
2.
So you don't feel good about Florida?
No, I never feel good about anything, actually. I'm sort of an emotional wasteland of malaise and ennui.
You don't say. I haven't noticed.
Look, Biden is doing very well in Florida with seniors right now, who are going to comprise about 30% of the overall vote in the state. He's doing very poorly with Cubans, who comprise about 8 or 9% of the overall voting population of the model. They're convinced he is a communist ready to seize the means of production. And strap on a black beret and declare martial law.
Why?
Why?
Because he's a Democrat.
Because the Cubans, the older generation of Cubans, still hears the word socialism and has a Pavlovian response to it, no matter how divorced it is from reality. I have a Cuban friend, and I said to him the other day, I said, Joe Biden is not a communist. He's not a socialist. He's not even a particular leftist. Why do you persist in this delusion? And he says, well, Fidel didn't seem bad at first either. I'm like, bitch, you weren't even born when Fidel was in office, but okay, try again. That is the conceit of the long battle against socialism as a part of their political identity. So they're always looking for the socialists to go after. But look, if Biden's continued successes with seniors in Florida stays on trend, he will have a very good day. But as much as all of the early balloting in Florida is very much in favor of the Democrats, the Republican machine will turn out voters on election day. They will turn them out on election day in very large numbers. They don't care about COVID. They don't care about anything else. They're going to come out and they're going to campaign as hard as they can to put Trump back in office. So,
what about? I have a question about.
Go ahead, Molly.
Mike Pence, or he's known in the Borat movie, Michael Penis. He went to the villages this weekend.
Yes, he did.
If he killed, how many old people does he need to kill for Democrats?
Well, I haven't actually modeled that in my data file yet, but the Mike Pence serial killer variable it clearly has to be added to the equation. Now, look, a lot of the people in Trump world in Florida who believe that the state is going to be, won or lost on the Cuban American vote, they're mistaken. We're looking to do some offsetting with Puerto Ricans, which is we think is moving the needle some. We're also looking to offset with veterans, where there's been a collapse for Trump. Calling them suckers and losers it did not help. Let's put it this with the branding. But the reason I always say to be cautious about these things in Florida in particular is the mechanical systems of turnout are not in the Democrats' strong suit. A Republican in Miami is going to turn out because of socialism. A Republican in Tampa or Orlando is going to turn out because of more like Fox-ish mainstream, what comprised the mainstream today, motivation issues. And in the Panhandle, everything north of I-4, Republicans are going to turn out for guns. That's it. And the Panhandle's already lost. I mean, Trump's leading Biden in the Panhandle by 62%. It's going to be a bloodbath in the Panhandle.
So there There was a 538 poll that Biden was up 4.5 in Florida.
It's an average, not an
The
individual
problem
poll.
with that is it takes that goddamn Q poll, which has been
Can we
often.
also just real quick, Rick? I would love your take, using that as a starting point. You and Molly's take on polls in general and how much you trust them.
Well, look, I trust some polls. I trust the data my team generates because I've got a bunch of mathematicians and statisticians and former baseball Moneyball nerds working for me.
Metrics.
Yep. But a lot of public polls are garbage and of low quality. And unfortunately, in Florida, the Quinnipiac poll has been consistently wrong for about 20 years when it comes to statewide races. That one Quinnipiac poll had Biden up by 15, which took 538's model and went bloop.
Right.
That was a big one. And I'm afraid that there's not much you can do about that, given the way that Nate runs the model. But our modeling and everybody else's modeling is that Florida is a much closer shot than that. And unfortunately, I wish I could tell you otherwise.
How often
So you
are you
think-
surprised by the modeling at the end of the day, after it's all said and done, that you think that your models or other people's models were super off that you trusted?
Look, I believe there are a lot of people who I believe there are an awful lot of people who have built decent models. And the thing about 16 is the models weren't all that wrong. The national polling showed Hillary Clinton would win by 2.9 points. She won by 3. A lot of the state models did not count adequately that Hillary Clinton had pulled down her advertising in places like Wisconsin and Ohio.
Why not? Why?
I don't know. They wanted to save money. Who the hell knows? There's a simple rule in campaigns that I have followed for a long time, and it always works. That rule is die broke. You do not want to. You can't go back another day in a campaign.
Can't take it with you.
You can't unspend the dollar. You've got to spend. You've got to spend yourself in the campaign. You've got to make sure you've paid all your staff bills and all your outstanding invoices. And then every other bit of it goes on door knocking, TV, mail, phones, digital, whatever you're doing in that campaign. And unfortunately, Hillary did not. They bought into the national polls. Now, in all the swing states, where in the 3 northern tier swing states that Trump won by 77,000 votes, all those polls showed a tie ball game. She also had some externalities coming in on her at the end of the campaign, Comey and everything else. But, and the other thing that a lot of models miss that we always really try to go for is the unlikely voter question. So Barack Obama surprised everyone in 2008 by turning up low propensity African-American voters and low propensity liberal voters that were, the profile was right, but they weren't likely to come out and vote. So in voting, we have a scale of 1 through 5, okay? I'm a 5 of 5. I'm a super voter. I vote all the time in every election. I vote in the off-year dog catcher elections, okay? You go after 5s of 5s all the time. You know they're high propensity. You're going to get them to come out. So most campaigns go to 4s and 5s. When they have the money and resources, they expand to 3s. They ignore 1s and 2s in almost all circumstances, unless there's some particular nudgy issue that they come out for. So Trump managed in some of those northern tier and Rust Belt states to motivate and turn out low propensity white male non-college voters. They are the proverbial Obama-Trump voters. In fact, one of my guys pulled the voter file, and I asked him to look at 4 of the big swing states up there in the northern tier. I said, I want to know who voted for Bush, Obama twice, and then Trump. 8,900 men in those 4 states are in that category.
And
that's
no
nothing.
women.
No, I think we had I think it was 16 women.
Yeah, exactly.
They are not, that's just not how they operate in the voting model. In that regard, the thing about, hang on a second. In that regard, the thing about what we saw in the last few months is Trump is trying to goose up his number again with those low propensity voters. We think, however, those are also people being hit very hard by COVID in that same demographic window in the same state. So that may be a neutral effort at best. And we're also looking to see where he's trying to motivate voters. You can also tell a lot about where they're going is by watching their Facebook buys. Facebook buys are all public record. Well, not public, but they make them available.
Their Facebook.
Yeah.
Facebook
Well,
public.
they've worked really hard to make them transparent, but this is the double-edged sword of it. So.
Yeah. But those things, you can see where they're going with a lot of their messaging. It's China, it's the China virus, it's the Chinese China virus, it's the Chinese China virus, it's the Wu flu, all this, these not terribly subtle racial dog whistles about COVID. They're trying to blame
Antifa.
Yeah, well, that's exactly. And the next thing is, if you don't believe us about China, you should believe us that Antifa super soldiers are coming with their MS-13 allies to your suburb to kill you and put a taco truck on every corner.
And install Cory Booker as your
right.
So, Alice Watson,
Hi.
the floor is yours.
Hi. So I was asking, so I know on the Dem side, Dems are enthused. My whole social life, or what it is, revolves around postcarding Zoom parties, going to like Dem fundraisers with what's that show? Princess Bride. There's one for Star Trek tomorrow. Like I was listening to you guys on Friday, throw another $25 for Mike Espy because who cares? We got to try. But is there any discernible enthusiasm on the Republican side in the base? Because Democrats, we don't care for 10 points ahead. We're also on PTSD. We're like, no, just keep giving money. We're going to try everything for phone texting. But I don't know. They don't have the money they're obviously raising. And I know their ROI for the spend is horrible based on what you were saying. But is any of it there? And we just can't see it because I live in California in a super blue bubble, and those are the people, even online, are in that same socioeconomic group.
Great question.
Republicans are motivated right now by a very deep-seated fear that they're going to be held to account for 4 years of this bullshit. Elected Republicans in particular are already trying to find their exit pathways and their explanations and their excuses. Republican voter intensity is lower than it was in 2016, but not by a statistically meaningful number. But what we see in a lot of the surveys we're looking at, about 86% of Republicans say they're voting for Trump, not against Biden. And about 72% of Democrats say they're voting for Biden and against Trump. So Biden, the intensity level is always negative. So the people who hate the most tend to be the ones you keep an eye on. So there's more hatred of Trump than there is love of Biden in a strange sort of upsetting way. I didn't explain that very felicitously, but the long and the short of it is Democrats are going to crawl over broken glass to vote against Trump because they cannot stand the guy. Republicans are going to have to hold their nose, which is why we're trying at Lincoln Project and elsewhere to cross what we call the Bannon line. Steve Bannon, who does not like me, but he correctly said that these guys can move 3 or 4% of the Republican voters off of Trump, they're going to win. Now, the upside of what we've got in our model, we're showing we're pulling somewhere between 8 and 12 in some of the key states, between 4 and 7 in others. But we're happy with where that trend line is running. It's just going to be a slugfest on turnout at the end of this thing. I have my gut sense and my numerical sense from our studies and our analytics says that the Democrats have a turnout advantage. And the fact that Trump killed off mail-in voting for a lot of Republicans, they've made a big gamble on Election Day, which they'll probably still do very well on Election Day, but it's a bigger gamble than it would have been if they had a systematic program to slowly grind this thing properly.
So really quick follow-up on Alice's question, which is, I think you kind of hit on, but I would argue that things like people writing postcards to get out the vote, all of that stuff has secondary effects of making people very aware of the election, making people like it just buzzes in their brain. They're getting this personal postcard or whatever, and might make them more likely to give money, might make them more likely to go out and volunteer time, but more or less like more likely to give money and more likely to vote, which is the point of the postcard. But the secondary effect is to give money. Do you agree with that at all? Do you think that those types of those effects exist?
Yeah, I do think that there's actually a lot of academic research, and we also have a bunch of academic, people in the background in our shenanigans. Those folks are in the likely voter pool are very susceptible to personal contact. A phone call is great. A live phone call from a friend or someone you know is even better. A handwritten note is amazing. Door knock, pretty good. So, but handwritten notes really work very well. That's got a meaningful statistical chance of having someone go, oh, well, my friend John really likes Joe Biden. I'm going to have a look.
Interesting. Brad Grossman, the floor is yours. Whoa, I just muted you, I'm afraid. Let me unmute you. Go for it.
Very good. Rick and Molly, love your podcast in our house. The fuck that guy has become between my wife and my 16-year-old son used constantly because 16-year-olds.
We are totally ending the show today with a fuck that guy from all of us.
The list of people to choose from is tremendous these days. So my question, Rick, basically is, how long do you think until I can go back to just simply hating your politics and loving your writing? Like before things return to normal.
Like Christopher Hitchens.
Sadly, I think we're going to be in a long-running battle with these idiots for a while. So you'll probably still like me for a little while longer.
It's tragic. Alina, the floor is yours.
Hey, thank you for being here, both Rick and Molly. I have an escapist question. Fast forward to 2023, Miami Herald headline: the newly elected junior senator for Florida, Rick Wilson, is co-sponsoring the bill with Congresswoman Ocasio-Cortez too. And what would that complete that headline? What would you co-sponsor a bill with the AOC? Thank you.
What would I do legislatively with AOC?
Yeah, what's the AOC Rick Wilson bill?
I'll give you a bipartisan area we could work in.
Look at Molly. Molly's like.
First off, it's guns in every preschool. No.
Every
what we could work together on.
In the preschool?
We could do a new Voting Rights Act. We could do an election security bill. We could do a foreign election interference penalties bill. We could do an ethics in government and ethics reform bill. We could do a civil service reform so that we don't have people putting their children in high government offices. We could work on reforming government, making it smarter and better. Sometimes that means it's smaller. Sometimes it means it isn't smaller. We could work on financial services reform. Honestly, we could work on a crony capitalism fix bill where you forbade lobbyists from going into and doing the regulatory capture that they're so good at these days. There's actually a broader area of stuff you could do if we would get out of some of the ideological bullshit fights that don't mean anything and that are never going to go anywhere.
And I don't want to brag about woke Rick Wilson, but he is pro-choice, right? You have the liberal side.
Listen, here's my thing.
Libertarian.
I think abortion is a morally fraught issue, and that many people on the pro-choice side treat that too lightly. But I also believe that government should stay the fuck out of my business and everybody else's for the maximum degree possible.
Called it.
Daniel, back in the black chair.
I've only got a minute to go, guys. I've got to get on another call here in 1 second. Daniel, go.
All right, Daniel, go. Blue shirt.
Two questions. Do you think intellectuals overestimate how much the average voter cares about policy? And second, will voters care about Biden's consistent refusal to answer the question about court packing?
I'll answer the second question first. No, they don't care. Secondly, and in answer 2B, Democrats pushing court packing right now is the dumbest fucking thing I've ever heard in my life. What are they thinking? This is stupid. This election is a referendum on Donald John Trump and nothing else. And if you get into the ditch on court packing, it gives Fox News and Rush Limbaugh and all these morons weeks to draw nightmare scenarios for their Republican base. You know the court will be packed with Antifa and lesbian cannibal witches. Yeah, they're going to go and do all this craziness, right?
Oh my.
Now, answering question A, elections are never about policy. Policy is a snare, a delusion, a trap, and a lie. Elections are never, ever, 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 ever about policy. And if you give me a 600-page policy plan and say, look at my healthcare plan, I'm going to have 10 nerds who are 20 years old and hopped up on Red Bull go through that thing and find 10 items where I can go advertise to Granny and say, did you know the healthcare plan will take away your legs? You know, they'll lock you in a dark room for 14 hours a day. I'll make up some crazy shit because it'll be in there. Policy is death. I love policy people.
As a policy guy, it's so true.
I love policy people.
No, this is why I love Rick Wilson so much. It's like everything my heart thinks all the time. I'm like, everyone shut the fuck up.
I love policy people. But policy is for after you win.
It has nothing to do with elections.
Rick Wilson, we got one more question before we let you go. Who is your fuck that guy for today?
Well, my fuck that guy, I'm going to double fuck that guy. Mike Lee, you'll hear about this more later, but Mike Lee's whole teasing this week of his whole ordered liberty thing, and taking a big old dump on the small d democratic process in this country. Mike Lee's on my list. He pretends to be a constitutional conservative. He is not.
All right. Rick, thanks for joining us. Go take your
Thanks, guys. Appreciate it. Fun time.
Don't forget, we have to tape the segment.
All right. David Botts, you get the actual last question, but not to Rick.
Well, thank you so much. Kate and Ben, thank you for making the last 200 days much more bearable.
In the corner. Oh, that's so cute.
This has been really an uplifting experience and a way to engage with big thinkers on national security, political, social media, as well as bees and corvids, to name a few. Thank you for your vision, hospitality, and graciousness.
Thanks for being in the audience and on the screen probably as much as any other single person.
Well, you bring out the best in people, so that's awesome. So what are your thoughts about the future of In Lieu of Fun?
Oh, wait, I wasn't anticipating this.
We're going to do it tomorrow.
Did you know?
Yeah, we have tomorrow Kathleen Ballou, who awesomely is in the audience today.
Yeah.
Which, how often do you get to say that? You get your audience people or your guests tomorrow, and then your guests tomorrow are going to be the future of In Lieu of Fun is that there'll be a show tomorrow. There'll be a show the day after that. There'll be a show I'm pretty sure there's going to be a show the day after that because they can't get this fucking virus under control.
Yeah.
When they get the virus under control, and the Brookings Institution opens and St. John's Law School needs Kate in-person teaching, we'll have to figure out something else to do. But until then, we're not allowed to have fun anymore, so we may as well do the freaking show.
I love that it really feels like I'm kind of watching like the Blair Witch Project with a robot, that just is moving the camera, Ben, as you talk. This is so.
I don't move the camera. The camera just follows me.
It's a smart camera. It's so
yeah.
smart.
Molly Jong-Fast, who's your fuck that guy today?
My fuck that guy is. It's hard. I mean, Rick used the same guy that he used on the show, so don't tell anyone. I think mine.
That's cheating.
It's really cheating.
You need to come up with a novel fuck that guy.
I mean, Lindsey Graham,
always fresh.
right? And he was such an asshole today. I mean, Ted Cruz also, Lindsey Graham. By the way, Ted Cruz was quarantining because he had been exposed to Mike Lee, who was exposing everyone on the judiciary and not wearing a mask. So if that isn't a clusterfuck, I don't know what is.
Can I just have like a moment? I think fuck that guy is right, but I have a moment and no one is gonna like this. Here's my fuck that guy. It's C-SPAN. Because
Why?
I was looking at because I know. Because I was looking at data recently that shows the invocation of like various types of amendments and and reference the Constitution that has happened over time in floor debate based on the Senate record and in the House. And there is just this massive spike to reference to the First Amendment, the Second Amendment, starting in like 1982, 1983, when like C-SPAN starts, which is basically like people are making campaign speeches from the floor of the House or the Senate, and they're making them knowing they're going to get replayed in their district, and so they just start doing these kind of like really bombastic things, and I do think that like that's like at the few times I've only testified in Congress twice. And both times I was like actually shocked that like no one sat there the whole time. People came in and they read off a piece of paper and it was clear they hadn't even read them over beforehand. They couldn't even speak the words. They like stumbled over the words to like
that was
say the words they wanted to say.
Although I do want to say in Louis Gohmert's defense, in Louis Gohmert's defense, when he asked me about killing people domestically with drones who'd led Muslim prayers in the White House, it was from the heart. He wasn't reading off of a piece of paper. That's actually who he is. He does
believe that. No, it's true.
No. He was like, no staffer had written that for him. He was like, it was right from here. Kate, that's a hot take. Kate's fuck that guy was C-SPAN. I love that.
No, I'm sorry. That was based on data.
No,
I feel very good about it.
I mean,
I like it.
Kate Klonick, not afraid of the controversial position. My fuck that guy today. I can't beat that. Like, I was gonna, now I feel like I've got to like denounce as my fuck that guy should be like Oreos and milk. So my fuck that guy is Oreos and milk because,
Wrong. Well, I mean, like, I don't really eat sweet things ever, but yeah.
Literally all I eat is sugar.
I never eat sugar except novelty candy, like wax lips.
I eat like I had like a pint of froyo before this. Like, it's amazing.
I went to Provincetown. They have these penny candy stores, and you can buy you can go through the little basket like you're a little kid and fill up your thing with like candy necklaces and like whatever. It's kind of cute. And like I went and I did it and I like got all this stuff and I ate like 3 things of Fun Dip on the ride home. And that was it's not food. It turns out it's not food. Don't recommend it. Sorry, Ben.
I read this article about a guy eating like 5 bags of licorice and then dying.
I got licorice too.
And
yeah, I saw you retweet that. He had a heart attack.
And then I for some reason since then I've been eating black licorice every night.
I feel like black licorice is the kind of thing that I should eat a lot of, but I actually don't like it. I think it's a great affectation for me, but I don't actually like it. We've got a wrap. Molly Jong-Fast, you're a great American. Let's do this at least one more time before the election.
Yeah, let's go. What am I doing?
Tomorrow,
let's talk about election night. We should actually plan something.
Yeah, we should actually figure out some fun like mixer for all our peeps.
Yeah. Let's do it.
Tomorrow, however, we have Kathleen Ballou, who at least earlier this evening was in the audience. We're going to talk.
And it's amazing. And
we're going to talk white supremacists and Michigan. We're going to talk Boogaloos, Proud Boys. It's going to be awesome. all the things that you want to talk about instead of actually having in the world. But we
Never
have them in
using
the world.
term lone wolf shooter. She
Yeah,
hates that
exactly.
term.
So we're going to do all that tomorrow. That will be 22 hours and 59 minutes from now. No, 51 minutes from now. And until then, we don't have fun anymore, but we do have the New Abnormal podcast and both of its guests, and that's pretty both of its hosts, and that's pretty freaking cool. And Molly, you got to get me on that show because I'm really feeling left out.
No, we will totally get you, and you have to find some national security. Yes, 100%.
I'm actually just pretending to be this vain.
Well,
In fact, I'm really this vain.